We have one more question back there. The gentleman illuminated by the devilish glow of the computer screen. Ba-ba-bam!
I was going to say they concentrate on costumes in movies because that's what we see, and that's what matters to us, because it's the sort of 20-foot high screen in front of us.
Yeah.
But the costume's only supposed to be a reflection of the character's basic character. I mean, he's a daredevil. I mean, that's his basic characteristic. He's a pirate.
Yes, definitely.
So it's difficult to do it with clothing and writing, why bother? His daredevil characteristics are going to be reflecting everything he does. I mean, his gun, his spaceship, his decisions, and that's a somewhat easier way to do it than.
But this panel that this panel that we're in right now is about imagery. Right, so, no, I'm not dissing you at all. It's a totally fair argument. There are plenty of writers who do their work without evoking any kind of visual impression in their story at all. But those are not here, right? Those are not the ones that we would have invited here today. I'm going to get back to you, but let's go with Vance first.
Yeah, it was just a comment that sort of about this. If any of you have read Roger Selazny's writing, been dead for a while now. It's really fantastic fantasy stuff.
Oh,
he made a comment. He made a comment that when he was creating characters, when he introduced them to the reader, he wanted to say maybe very quickly just 3 things about them, 3 physical attributes which would help the reader create an image of them in their mind. So it could be like hairstyle, the jacket he's wearing, and that he always has an unlit cigarette in his hand. And you get an idea of the character very quickly from that, a visual idea. And then, of course, then the character is going to be talking and doing something in that scene. And within a page, you have a really good visual idea of the character in your mind.
Yeah.
It may not be exactly the same visual idea that the guy sitting next to you reading the story has, but that's okay.
That's absolutely, yeah. That's a very good, and obviously there is more to the visual descriptions that we're talking about here than merely a time. We're also talking about the environment, the lighting.
You should give a little bit of attitude, if you can do that.
Oh, yeah. A person's attitude is reflected not just in their appearance. I mean, this is a fantastic photo, but you can see his body language, his stance. Like, one of the other reasons why he wears a vest is that it flutters behind him when he runs, which is nice and dramatic and gives a greater sense of speed. I mean, this is purely something visual, but you can bet that the costume designer did ask George Lucas, is he going to do a lot of running? Or maybe if we give him a vest, then it can be like a cape. Okay. You, sir.
So I was going to say that, that's a very good point. Let's learn from the greats. And a particular example I have in mind is Ian Fleming. He's absolutely brilliant at giving, because the villains in Ian Fleming books, they're always grotesques. And
they're always monsters.
Yeah.
For anyone not familiar, Ian Fleming wrote the James Bond books.
And he gives this wonderful description from Bond's following a gold car. And he has...
Say again, please?
Bond is following someone in a car. And
right.
The person he's following has a hat that's too small, it's jammed right down in the centre of his head. It's just this amazing little bit of imagery which tells us all we need to know about this person who's
the discomfort that he's enduring, the kind of stress that he's under, the possible body odors that are emanating from someone that's willing to do that to himself, that cares so little.
That he's badly dressed because his hat is too small.
And yet he refuses to take it off because he's still bound by some sense of propriety that a man has to wear a hat at any cost. And then he takes it off and he tucks it and locks a mannequin's head off.
Actually, yes.
No. Oh yeah, that was Odd Job. All right, hold on. Let me just have a quick look. Oh no, there's no more presentation. So candy for everyone. Seriously. And again, if anyone is bothered that instead of finishing this presentation, I had some wonderful mojitos with some excellent gentlemen, now is the time to speak up. So we have this framework for signs and their meaning. Now we've talked a bit about imagery and how that can infer certain characteristics about a character or about an environment. But we've done it at a very brisk pace and at a very high level. So I'd like to. Does anyone have any examples from their own writing that they would love to talk about? Because what do writers like to do when they're in company, other than talk about their own writing? Right.
Okay, I'll give you one. this may or may not be an excellent example. I think it's good. We've got our main.
Good enough for us.
Our main viewpoint character, main protagonist, is kind of on a bad trajectory. She's turning into a bastard, actually. And she's seen from the viewpoint of another character. She seems incredibly hard and shiny, but she's got this military uniform, and she's so pumped that she's like filling it out. And the other character looking at her is seeing that this uniform is incredibly taut. And that was the way I thought of to convey the fact that this character is just so kind of so tense, so buttoned up, and so like obsessive that she will not swerve, and she will not be deflected, and just kind of really kind of unpleasant character.
So she was wearing armor that was 2 sizes too small. I'm seeing a pattern here. You're learning from the greats.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not mocking you, seriously.
No, that is actually a very fair observation.
It's a very good way to describe it, yeah. So we're talking about someone who really fills out her uniform, from which we infer that she is muscular and that she is totally in control of her person. That it might actually be a little bit comical, though, much like Oddjob was. You know, maybe she squeaks when she walks. It can be used for different effects, so it can be definitely intimidating. But you can actually play with it a bit more. I mean, if this is a defining characteristic, if this is the visual image that your reader is going to take away, then yeah, you can definitely play with that down the road, especially if she shows up more often. Next.
I could read out a bit of what I read out at the round table yesterday.
All right. Could you say your name, please?
Elfasi.
Yes, of course.
It's a paragraph, it's part of the story, so it may not make any sense, but this is kind of a clever little exposition. But this paragraph opens with some of the confusing aspects of this character where you're going to think what the hell's going on and hint at it. So.
We're talking about imagery and writing, and this gentleman's going to read us a bit from his. Read us a bit from what he's written, so we can.
Just a paragraph, so yeah. My tail was stiff and aching, strapped down, hidden from sight. When's the last time you saw a reindeer with a long striped tail? One mercy, the kids couldn't pull on it. I sighed and slouched where I stood, flexing my claws, tiny bells jangling with every movement. It was going to be a long shift.
Right, what do we take away from that? No, I'm seriously asking. What do we take away from that? Has anyone listened?
I'm getting sort of the drudgery of retail, but the feeling of a long, uninviting few hours ahead, however many that happens to be.
Yep.
And I picked up on somewhere there was actual physical pain, or at least discomfort, of the tail being trapped out of sight.
Yeah.
And I just feel that if you've got hours ahead of that to look forward to,
Yeah.
that's going to have a massive impact on how the character experiences the next few hours of their life. And I think the media can, a sort of physical sensation like that, and the imagery goes with it. It could have a very powerful impact on the media.
Well, it didn't have just the feeling of that one day. This was just one day of many. I had this feeling.
Painful life.
Yeah.
Very well put. Let me see. I don't actually have a lot to add to that. I found that your description was very particularly apt. There's one thing that this brings up that may be a little important to talk about. I talked about juxtaposition a little bit, and with some of you I had a conversation yesterday that brought this up. When you convey an emotion to the reader, and you do so very, very well, it's also important that you give them relief at intervals. Right? We talked about that a little bit yesterday during the writers, the authors' roundtable that occurred. Setting a mood is very difficult, and once you've done it well, and the reader has the correct mindset, you know, like maybe it's a cyberpunk dystopian future, like in Blade Runner, or it's a castle with knights and squires and damsels and full of political intrigue. It can become overwhelming. This is not related to your particular example, but like assuming that this is, for example, a novel where every single page is just filled with this drudgery the discomfort and the pain that they're putting themselves through, two things happen. Either it becomes overwhelming and unpleasant, and you don't want to be there anymore, you don't want to continue reading the story, or you become numb to it. Those things can definitely happen. So, variety is the spice of life. It's important to make sure that you're aware of what you're putting your reader through when you craft a world this well. And the reason I mention that is because we're all talking about how you can use imagery to create an environment that will engage your reader's imagination, that will get them in there, and get them in the correct emotional frame that you want. But you can go too far. You can overshoot the mark, and you can trap them in this fucking nightmare world of, of retail horror.
Lovecraft, retail.
Well,